It is 4:32 according to system clock, so I'll call the meeting to order. We have a quorum, and we'll start with the roll call.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right.
Avendroth,
She's excused.
Allen,
Yes.
Bryant,
Here.
Crosby, she's excused. DeFonce,
Here.
Christopher's excused. Gladys, she's here. LePage,
Here.
Okay.
Lamonto,
Here.
he is here. Mandeville,
He's here. He just saluted.
McDonald,
He's excused.
Minnick,
Here.
Novacek,
Here.
Purick,
Here.
and Roland. Is that how you pronounce it?
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay.
You have a quorum.
All right. First thing is the consent agenda. So we need a motion to approve the consent agenda, which includes approval of the absences, approval of the June 28th, 2021 agenda, approval of the minutes for the May 24th, 2021 meeting, and committees for which there are no reports at this time, which include advocacy, executive, actually I have a report, finance, health plan. There's a finance report too, isn't there?
Sorry.
There's a finance report too, isn't there, Darcy? Okay.
We'll just amend that.
Negotiating personnel and property. So we need to remove the executive committee and the finance committee from that list because they have reports today. So if we amend that, do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
That was Gayla. Do you have a second?
A second.
Who was that?
Hope.
Hope. Okay. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor of approving the amended consent agenda, please signify by saying aye or waving wildly.
Aye. Aye.
Anyone opposed? Jump up and down, please. Okay. Any abstentions? Motion carried. Thank you. Public comment, there's no public present, so I don't think there's any public comment. Communications,
I don't have anything.
I don't have anything. Do you have anything, Steve?
No, I don't.
Okay, so there's no communications. President's remarks, try to stay cool, try to take care of yourselves, stay hydrated, and hang in there. We're doing okay. Plattsburgh Public Library report.
We're fully open. We just haven't started having meetings here yet, but we are doing summer reading and story hour. Masks only for those who are not vaccinated, and including kids, of course. So we're pretty much back to pre-COVID.
That's great.
That's it.
Awesome. Any questions for Ann?
I have a question.
Sure.
It's come to my colleague, Carrie Goyette, told me that the library has a box of Adirondack Stoddard prints that they have nowhere to display. And at this point, at Clinton Community College in the West Hall of the Learning Commons, we're going to turn that into a history walk.
Oh.
And if the library would like to either loan or donate them to Clinton Community College, we'd probably display them.
Okay, well, thank you. We're actually in the process of transferring our Cole Historical Collection to the Clinton County Historical Association. We don't feel that we're very good stewards here in terms of climate control and digitization and making it really available. So I will definitely keep that in mind. And I know you're having a big opening soon, aren't you?
Yes, we're not sure when that's going to be, but they would be displayed with the cannon from Fort William Henry and anchor from the Battle of Plattsburgh. We already have several framed postcards of the area, and they'd make a very fine addition to a history walk. And it's
Okay, well, yeah, we would loan them. We wouldn't probably donate them just because we're gonna.
And we would make note of that.
Sure. I'll get in touch with you.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or comments for Ann? Thank you, Ann. Director's report.
Well, the director's report is you got the one in the mail. We're happy to have Juliet now, and we're almost back up to pre-COVID staffing levels. When the governor announced that the vaccinations had reached 70%, he removed any mandatory or most mandatory restrictions. We here at the CEFLS have removed those mandates from our staff, so we can see their pretty faces again, and things seem to be going really well. We still do ask visitors to either declare themselves vaccinated or wear a mask. We have several construction projects underway. We're hoping to get a couple of them out of the way. The last year's tunnel project was one of those. We're filing the paperwork now for it. We are working with an engineer to tell us how to pave the area so that we can go out to bid. And Ann, we need to get together, you and I, and talk about that for just a minute. I'll be back next week. And then there's the garage door, and the garage door has been ordered. It will be installed after delivery. They've told us 6 to 8 weeks. And I feel for our drivers because they're doing a lot more work out in the sun than they used to. The other thing I included in the director's report were several legislative issues that have been passed. I have not heard any updates that any of them have been signed, but we've also not heard of any of them that are going to be denied. A couple of them, one of them that I thought was interesting, and this is one that the board felt strongly enough to issue a document, was that the ebooks, access to ebooks, they're leveling out that playing field so that libraries are not paying premium prices for audiobooks and ebooks. Basically it just says if they offer it to the public, they got to offer it to the libraries. With the removal of the mandates for COVID, it probably means that our days of meeting virtually are numbered. I'm trying to look up to see if his last, the governor's last executive orders is he letting them expire, or is he carrying it on for one more month? When I have an answer to that, I will let you all know. Any questions?
Yeah, this is Dorothy. You know, in the past, we did have available to us a couple of sites where people who were not able to attend in person could call in, log in, and board member for board meetings and participate. And this was prior to the COVID and the pandemic and all of that. So I'm assuming that we were doing that under the
Open meetings law.
open meeting law, you know, within those guidelines.
Right.
So, you know, one thing I think we want to be careful about is that, you know, if there's a statement that comes out saying, no, you know, no more virtual meeting for open meeting law, that we don't lose what we had prior to the pandemic.
Yeah, that's one of the things. The open meetings laws were suspended as far as how boards could meet. They had an option for tele-participation before COVID. It's fairly restrictive, but I'm thinking that they're just taking the modifications off of that we'll have what we had before. But
Yeah.
that will be part of my questions when I reach the right person.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I believe that we had some designated sites, so it was not something that people could do from home on their own computer. They needed to go
It was the libraries.
to a library site. It just because that was very beneficial at times for some of our board members. So
Yeah, if I was the governor, I think, you know, because of our geographic dispersion, that it has been so much less stress having these meetings like we have had for the last year.
There's an actual office with the state government of open meetings. I'm not sure
There
if they've
is.
appointed a new director after the other one had to resign a while back.
yes.
But they are probably going to be the ones who
We'll have the answer.
issue the new rules if there are some.
Yeah. And that office has been very helpful in the past when we've had questions of open meeting law, of clarification.
Somebody was in the waiting room.
Kayla went out somehow.
Okay,
I have a new puppy who just woke up, so I got to take her outside.
Aw.
This is Daisy.
Hi,
Oh,
Daisy.
Hi, Daisy.
Take Daisy out before she has a fit. Okay, any other questions for Steve? Anything else you need to bring up, Steve?
Not at this point.
So should we assume that we will still be having meetings virtually until we hear otherwise?
I think
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, we can do it that way.
Okay.
Anything else for Steve? Anything else from Steve?
Not
Okay.
yet. There's a couple of comments on further agenda
Further-
items.
Okay, so that means we're at financial reports, so I'll turn it over to Darcy.
Hi. So the finance group met before this meeting, and Michael had shared with the committee the annual report for the library system that what he sent in June. And it hasn't formally been approved by New York State. But when it does, we will be sharing it with the rest of the board members. And Michael gave us some really good news, which, Michael, I'll let you tell the board.
We received a letter from our lender, and our loan has been forgiven for the PPP.
Whoa.
Wow.
Fully forgiven. I'm happy about that.
Yes, that's great.
Any questions about the annual report? It's about 40 pages, 60 pages long. That's
Double-sided.
why we did not send it to you all. It's just fascinating reading. How many hours was each member library open? How many hours did so-and-so work? Who's got what education level, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And a lot of finance information.
Actually, I know you're saying that tongue in cheek, but when I first came on the board, I found it to be very, very helpful.
Yeah, me too, actually.
To learn a lot
Yep.
about the libraries.
Yep.
So,
It does
and
help.
all of your work was well worth it in terms of, at least for this board member, to provide that information, and Michael. So
It's a lot of work, but we didn't want to send you the 60 pages twice.
no,
So we're waiting to send you the final product after the state tells us what they don't like in the initial report, and we send them our responses and fix everything, and then we'll give it to everybody once. Anything else, Darcy? Did you want to bring,
No, I don't think so. Michael, help me out. Is there anything else?
did you want to bring up the possibility of a clerk? I think you should.
Okay. So, in reading Steve's report, I noticed that all the positions were filled except the library clerk. So prior to the finance meeting, I reached out to Michael and Steve and just thought, food for thought kind of thing. Would it be better for us to look at hiring maybe an account clerk typist, someone who might be able to be cross-trained a little to help help Michael, so that way he has some support. And Michael shared that they want to revise the budget now that our numbers are known, and there would be further discussions with Steve and that type of thing. Feel
So
free
our-
to chime in, Mike.
Our
It is
thought-
one of the options we have been considering. The other tricky part is that we thought, instead of hiring a van driver delivery, that we hire this person as the substitute driver, because this person will be in work all day. We don't have to worry about calling to find a substitute. So that's one of the things that we're kind of tweaking on and hoping we can work out. Civil service has something to say about it though, so
Yeah.
we're working with them.
Position that has all those roles, right?
Yeah,
so you'll come back to us with a recommendation after you've had a chance to look at the needs and the
We
budget?
will. We
Thank you.
will.
Will we be current at the next board meeting? I thought we were told that we'd be current at this board meeting in terms of financial reports.
I did promise that, Steve, but because of the annual report and the CARES Act, I've had to put a lot of time and work into it. Also, with my part of the CARES Act, the accounting program, we're adding modules to it that will save us time in the future. But I've had to put a lot of time into those activities. And, I'm in the middle of the second month of April. I should have that done this week. And that'll be sent out to you, and then it will be May, and then June will be in your packet.
so by the end of the next month, hopefully, we will be.
I just, my concern is that we as board members have responsibilities, fiduciary responsibilities for which we are liable. And we can't do our job if we don't have current information on our finances. So this is real important. And my suggestion would be, if you have a couple plans in mind, put them on paper and get them to us before the next board meeting, so that maybe we can make a decision quickly. And that would include, of course, dealing with civil service. But this is a problem. Thank you.
It's not a new problem. Yeah.
Thanks for that input, Steve. Michael and I fret over it often because there's a lot on our plates that is extra at this point. But really, we need to focus back on the monthly reports and monthly keeping it current. It's easy to fall behind. It's hard to make it up.
And I've been working over 80 hours every 2 weeks to bring us back up to current. I do have our payroll up to current, which is a good thing. We were up to 4 or 5 behind, but now that's current, and that's why I'm working on the monthly reports, and they will become current.
Okay, again, nobody wants you to burn out, Michael.
I know, I understand that.
This is important that you get this done. Somebody gets it.
I take my job very seriously about that, and I felt really not good this weekend because I did promise you this, and I thought I had time, but it just ran away from me.
Okay. We also have a financial report. We did get April's, right?
Mark.
March. Okay, we got March's financial report. So we need a motion to approve the financial report for March 2021 as presented. And we have a motion from Andrew. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Darcy. Any discussion about the March financial report? Okay, if there is no discussion, all those in favor of approving the financial report for March, please signify by saying aye. Wave if your
Aye.
phone is turned off. Anybody opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carried unanimously. Okay, that brings us to committee reports. We already basically did the finance committee report. The executive committee report they have basically down under the new business. So I will wait till new business to do that. Okay, any other committees want to make a report or need to make a report?
I could give a real brief report on the negotiation committee.
Okay.
We met via Zoom. I've chatted with our attorney, and she's putting together our proposal, and she'll, once that's finished, she'll send that to me and I'll share it with the rest of the committee. Then we'll move forward to have our first negotiation session. And according to Jackie, we can negotiate via Zoom. And in fact, she believes that we probably don't even need her to be part of the very first one in order to conserve on spending. So that's an initial report from the negotiations committee. There'll be more to follow, obviously, in the future.
Thank you very much.
Any of the committee members want to add to that?
What's been really good is that the union has been very flexible as we work through this COVID period. It's really been a stress-free thing. So we're hoping for those good feelings to continue.
Well, in the past, our negotiations, since I've been on the committee, have been pretty seamless and easy. So I anticipate that in the future too.
Will we see the proposal before you guys sit down with CSEA?
No,
We won't.
because it's just an opening proposal.
But you'll keep us apprised of what's going on.
We will. All the negotiations I've been involved in, you don't share the process in the beginning because that's just the way. I've been negotiating contracts for 25 years, and Darcy's probably been negotiating for at least 20, and that's typically the process. It's just we're both sitting on the other side of the table, and we have Jackie with us. Usually, she's our adversary. Kind of comical.
Well, I just, I've been on boards and have negotiated with teachers and other entities for 15 years. And typically, the board is at least made aware of the parameters of the negotiation so that, if an agreement is made, that the board doesn't undermine the negotiation that was done in good faith. Just a thought, and I don't think you guys will be, exceeding whatever parameters, but it would be, from my perspective,
It's
helpful.
I can share that it's a very, very basic proposal at this point, and it's an opening proposal.
Okay.
It by no means will be the end. I can guarantee that.
It doesn't include wage increases?
Yes, it does.
All right.
And if you want to talk about it, we could go into executive session, but it's
Yes.
kind of meaningless at this point because it's not really going to be, this is just the opening, and we have no idea what their opening proposals. All we do is exchange opening proposals.
Typically in the history of CEFLS, the way that this has been done is that the board trusts the negotiating committee enough to let them do their job and supports whatever they propose because we trust them. That is what we have done in the past.
Well,
It's not a matter of trust. This isn't a matter of trust. I trust them
Yeah,
too.
I want to know what they're proposing.
Does the board, is it appropriate for the board to authorize the negotiating committee to enter into preliminary
We
discussions?
already did that.
I thought we had before, right?
We already did that.
Yeah.
So just keep us apprised, okay, Tom?
Oh, I'll have a better report next, I'm assuming by next meeting, if we get together and exchange proposals. There's no guarantee that'll happen within them.
Right.
Right.
Sometimes these things move rather slowly. And then before you know it, they speed right up. So we're just in the very preliminary stages at this point.
Okay, thank you. But I understand the idea that people want to know what's going on.
But we also don't want to
Yeah,
be so specific that it gets minuted.
yeah,
Is that part of the,
that is part of it.
Exactly.
because, if we're having a discussion here, then it needs to be part of our minutes.
Yep.
Right.
So if we do discuss anything to do with negotiations, it should be in executive session afterward, really. Because negotiations are supposed to be kind of confidential.
Right.
Okay, does that cover everything to do with that? Okay, thank you. Thanks, Tom. And all negotiating committee. That brings us to unfinished business, which we already covered. Steve already covered the virtual attendance. And you will be contacting that person in Albany that's in charge of that, Steve?
I will.
Okay. Under new business, we have the garage door repair. And there are minutes of the executive committee meeting where we met and decided that the repair of the garage door is and constitutes an emergency because the drivers have had to carry all the materials by hand out, down the steps, and to the van, and load everything in the van. And then they take everything out of the van and carry it up the steps and into the garage and so on and so forth, which we feel is a waste of their time and energy, among other things, but it's also adding to the hazard and the danger. We're very glad we have a stair railing now, but we decided it constituted an emergency also because the car was inside the garage and they could not get it out. So we decided to go with what Scott McDonald and the rest of the people who responded on the email to the question of what we should do. They recommended that we go with the new door rather than an old refurbished door, which, by the way, was 16 years old, and the one that just failed is 20 years old. And it could not be opened. It could not be closed. It just closed automatically. And they had to get a forklift to open the door to get the car out. And all of this, the proposals that we got from everybody that made a proposal said it was going to take up to 2 months after we made a decision to get anything done. So the executive committee decided, okay, authorize, replace the door for the best price you can get, and the soonest the better. That was basically the report of the executive committee. Did I miss anything?
Oh,
That was very concise, Lisa. Thank you.
Okay. We also did ask Steve to never let this sort of thing happen again.
the vendor was suggesting at one time that we split the doors. It would be cheaper. It would be like half the price cheaper to split the doors and have 2 doors instead of one big door. We had a time constraint with the manufacturer. They were going to up the price $1,000 or $1,500 by I think it was the end of it was sometime in the last couple of weeks. And I was trying to get a vendor to come in to see how much it would cost to put a column in the middle of that door so we can have 2 doors. But that didn't materialize. So we had to go with, so we can get this door in, we had to go with the vendor with the one big door.
Oh, yes, and we did check. We are not violating any spending limits from the state. We are not violating anything except our own rules about acquisitions of property. So the executive committee decided that because it was an emergency, we could do that.
So we're really not violating violating our policy. Our
Yeah.
policy has that in place,
If
that
we
the
say it's an
executive
emergency.
committee can do that. I just want to make it clear that we're not have a phrase of violating a policy in our minutes.
Okay? That's that. That's about all we can tell you about the door, except that it's been ordered and it's getting here as quick as it can. And of course, who knows how long that will be because the supply chains are still kind of messed up.
Well, things are taking so long for any ordering since the pandemic anyway. I mean, at least it's ordered and we're on the list, but it's just some of this stuff has been crazy with the pandemic. People weren't working, so you gotta, they weren't producing.
Well, and they may not have the materials that we don't know what's going on with the supply chains.
They're having trouble with the foam. They said the insulation, there's foam that goes in between the steel parts, and that's the biggest part of their holdup with their doors. Everything else, they're fine with the steel and everything, but that foam or the chemicals that makes that foam, they're having trouble getting.
So
He did tell me that.
we'll get it as soon as we can.
Yep.
On to the annual report. We already dealt with that. So now we get to member libraries automation fees, and whoever is going to tell us about this, please go for it.
Michael?
Okay, we have had agreements with our member libraries that we have our board give a plan of what the increases will be 6 months before the end of the year, because some of our member libraries are getting their budgets ready for their fall, for their next year. So we like to give them time. I gave you the history of the automation fees. We base that on a full-time equivalence of the prior year annual report of the member libraries. And as you see at the bottom, there's 22 libraries that have less than 2 people or 2 full-time equivalents in their thing. And it also shows what the increase was over the years. We didn't increase sometimes for a couple of years because I don't know, we just didn't, and then we hit them hard, and I felt bad for them, with a 10% increase. But our automation fees are one of the lowest in New York State. And we've talked to the other the library systems, but again, we are a lower, we don't have the money up here to have these big amounts. We try to do, we try to cover our costs, and that's about it. So I showed you a 3-year plan for 3% increase and a 3-year plan for 5% increase. The things that we do have to look at on the cost side is, of course, you have salaries, and also Cersei Dynex, who still, has our licenses. They go up about 3.9% each year, in their cost. And also, one good thing is we have not had an increase in our hosting at North Country Library System. So
do you need a motion of some kind?
of which one?
Well, are you proposing a 3% increase
Or
or
a
Or
5%?
5.
5%, okay.
That's the amounts that, in past it was been 5, and we usually try to do 3 years, so they know for 3 years what their costs are gonna be.
Okay, so we need a motion to approve the proposed automation fee schedule. Right?
Which percent increase?
5%.
So I'm a little, I wasn't confused, but now I am. So the proposal is for 3 years to have a 5% increase. And it looks like, is that what we've done the past, since 2016?
That's correct.
And then we did that again in 2019. So authorizing a 5% for the next 3 years. Okay.
Each year,
Yes.
but we need a motion.
I'll move it.
I'll second.
Hope. Any discussion? Would anybody like to say anything? Okay, there being no discussion, all those in favor of the motion to let the member libraries know that our fees will be going up 5% for the automation thing in the future, 5% each year for the next 3 years. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand if you're muted.
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anybody abstaining? Motion carried. The last thing on our agenda is the social media policy. And somebody needs to explain what's going on here.
I guess that's me. Over the COVID situation, we have greatly increased our presence in social media, Twitter, Facebook, all of those things. And we wanted an updated policy to tell us what we can and can't do, or what the purpose of it was, and remind us where we're going with this. Anya put together this proposal that did get in your packets. I don't have a problem with any part of it. There might be a couple of places where I'd change the wording, but I don't need to.
Yeah, so this is Dorothy. I just had a few questions about this. Steve, you mentioned because of the increase that we've been using this during COVID, we wanted to update our policy. Is this a new policy, or is this did we have any policy on about social media before this?
I seem to have seen one, but it was like 10 years old. In our master book of policy.
Okay.
And that's why I let Anya do this from a new perspective, because I think things have changed so much that it was really a new policy, while the other one is now defunct. Even you know, it was so long ago that all of the technologies have changed, all of the reasons, and we know so much more. We've had a lot more input from society about what they expect of their social media. And so that's why this is essentially a new policy rather than a revised policy.
Okay, so I am a total non-social media person in terms of knowing what people use them for, etc. But the statement that the content posted on the CEFLS social media accounts do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of the library system. I guess I'm a little confused of what we would be putting that doesn't reflect our policies.
Well,
with most social media, you have the public out there that responds to it. And
okay.
You don't want to be responsible for what they say.
Right.
Okay. So when they post something, is there a guardian of the gate that before it gets posted, the one of the staff people here would see what it is and then release it so that we don't get junk and bombed and all that kind of stuff? I don't use social media much. So
down there on the third paragraph, the procedure, the last bullet point is at least one designated staff member should be responsible for posting content. So anything that goes out on those is going through a filter.
okay. So if somebody responds back, the outside person would not be posting it. It would come back to us for review, and then a staff member would post their comment. Am I understanding that correctly?
Well,
No.
I think more it could be posted, a staff member would be checking what is posted. And if something egregious was posted,
Oh,
they
okay.
would
They
block it.
police it, they monitor it.
They monitor it, right.
That's why the free events parts. So that for-profits, they could post something that says, tickets are $10, but then we have the right to take it down because our policy is only free events.
Okay. Again,
Yeah.
I'm not a social media
It's
person.
okay. Better to have the question asked.
So I have a couple questions too. Does this policy, it doesn't seem to designate any one person responsible for the social media posts, so that all staff can be posting things on the CFLS site?
All staff are subject to this policy. In a sense, we do have our outreach coordinator is the one that monitors this. So that would be Anya. and that could be worked into the to the statement here, is that the outreach coordinator is designated to be the
Gatekeeper.
the gatekeeper.
I would like to not see that designation. To me, the person that's doing it is more a procedure, whereas this is a policy. So by keeping the policy a little bit vague, let's say Anya's out for a period of time, Steve, you may designate David to do it. So I think internally there'll be a procedure and you would identify the person, but I'm not sure we really need it at this level. That's just my thought.
Because it does say at least one person.
Right. And so you're given flexibility, within your organization to determine who, and you won't have to worry about coming back to us because something has changed. You know what I mean?
Right.
You're just saying there's a designated person, and I think that suffices. Just my thought.
Makes sense.
If there was another policy regarding social media that might be 10 years old or so, we probably should pass a resolution to eliminate that policy.
Yes, I agree.
So we need to find out whether there was one.
Or it could be just put in the motion that this supersedes all previous social media policies.
That seems much
That
simpler.
sounds good.
That's very nice.
Another idea would be, and I'm not sure how we would do this, but maybe institute some sort of, if there isn't one already, and forgive me if there is, but institute some sort of regular review of these things, because boy, that does change quickly.
Sometimes
One of my projects.
Okay.
It could be mentioned in another policy of communication or something like that,
Right.
and not a separate one, but I don't remember either, so.
Okay, so do we want to move
The-
forward?
Just one other thing, and it's being nitpicky, but on the second page, it should be a typo, I guess. Post by EFLS staff should be CEFLS staff.
Yes.
Why would that bother you,
Picky.
Nikki?
Huh?
Why would that bother you, Nikki? I mean, we could be somebody else.
It's not even a good acronym. You can't make a word out of it. EFLS. It helps if it was EFLS. All right, that's it.
We'll correct that.
And there's some other typos, like in the first paragraph. If there are any doubt, as opposed to is, so just have somebody do some editing.
Okay, so do we want to move forward with the policy, or do we want to wait till they've fixed all the typos and stuff?
Couldn't we approve it as amended or as edited?
With editing?
With editing.
No, because.
I think we should see the final copy
Yep.
before we
Yeah.
officially approve it.
because if
Agreed.
we-
I agree.
It has to be dated, yeah.
Yep.
Is there a problem with the photocopier? Because my second page is at a funny angle, and then some other papers that had come through were kind of getting blurry and didn't go through well. Do we need a new photocopier?
As a matter of fact, our lease on this current one is ready to expire.
Good.
And we have talked about going out and test driving a couple of them and see what we can do to get a replacement. But yeah, it is getting old. It's done a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, so we will not take any action on the social media policy. There's no motion or anything on it, so we don't have to. And when it's been cleaned up and so on and so forth, would you present it to us again, Steve, and we will then vote on it. I don't think anybody's got any objections to it, but that also gives us time to look through it and really study it. Anybody think that's not a good idea?
I think that's a wonderful idea.
All right. In that event, we have progressed through the entire agenda, And does anybody have anything else that needs to be brought up for the good of the system? For the good of the members of the board? Okay, in that case, we are adjourned.
Thank you, everyone. Good seeing
Thank you, everyone.
It'll
Thank
be
you.
nice-
Aye.
it'll be nice being back in person, though.
It will
Oh,
be.
yeah.
Agreed.
So,
It'll be nice not to have masks.
so I have a question.
Um,
And
Yeah.
I mean, I have a Facebook thing, but I just